Don't ignore this. Maybe it feels like just another random line, just another cheesy thought you've seen 100 times before, but somewhere deep inside, something in you paused for a second when you read it, a quiet feeling, like your heart whispered, "What if?" And honestly, that small, what if, is where everything begins to change, because life never really announces its biggest moments loudly. It doesn't knock on your door and say, "Get ready. Something special is coming." It just quietly shifts things, slowly, gently, in ways you don't even notice at first, just like people do when they enter your life, and someone is about to enter yours, someone who won't just be another person, not another temporary presence, not another name that fades into your past, but someone who feels different even before you understand why, someone whose energy feels like familiarity instead of effort. Like you don't have to pretend, you don't have to perform, you don't have to shrink or become someone else just to be accepted, because with them, you'll realize what it means to be seen without explanation, understood without long conversations, and valued without conditions. And maybe the most surprising part is that they won't come into your life when everything is perfect. They won't arrive when you feel completely ready, healed, or put together. No, they'll come when you're still figuring things out. When parts of you are still messy, when you still carry doubts, fears, and questions about your own worth, and somehow, they won't see those things as flaws. They'll see them as pieces of you that deserve patience, not judgment, and that's when it will hit you, that the right person doesn't come to fix you, they come to understand you, and in that understanding, something inside you begins to heal on its own, naturally, without force, without pressure, and you won't even notice when it starts. It will just feel like breathing becomes easier around them, like silence is no longer uncomfortable, like your thoughts are no longer heavy when they're near, and you'll catch yourself smiling for no reason, not because something dramatic happened, but because their presence itself feels like peace, and that's rare, that kind of calm, that kind of connection. It doesn't come often, and when it does, it changes you in ways you didn't think were possible. It teaches you that love isn't supposed to feel like confusion. It isn't supposed to make you question your value, or leave you guessing where you stand. It's supposed to feel steady, like something you can trust even on your worst days. And this person, they'll show you that without even trying too hard, just by being consistent, by being real, by choosing you in small ways every day. And maybe, just maybe, they'll walk into your life so quietly that at first you won't even realize how important they're going to become. They'll just be there. In your conversations, in your thoughts, in your routine, slowly becoming a part of your world until one day you look around and realize they're no longer just a part of your life. They feel like home, and that's when you'll understand why things didn't work out with others, why certain connections ended, why you had to go through all those confusing, painful, or incomplete chapters, because they were never meant to stay. They were just preparing you, shaping you, making space for something real. Something that doesn't leave you feeling empty or unsure. Something that finally feels right. And I know it's hard to believe sometimes, especially when you've been disappointed before, when you've trusted the wrong people, when you've given your time, your emotions, your effort to someone who didn't truly see you. But not every story repeats itself, not every person will hurt you the same way, and not every ending leads to another loss. Some endings are actually quiet beginnings in disguise, leading you exactly where you're meant to be. And maybe that's why you're reading this right now. Maybe this is your reminder to stay open, to not let past experiences close your heart completely, to not assume that what you had before is all you'll ever get, because there's more waiting for you, something deeper, something calmer, something that doesn't feel like a constant emotional roller coaster, and when this person finally steps into your life, you won't have to chase. You won't have to beg for attention, you won't have to overthink every message or every silence. Things will just flow in a way that feels natural, effortless, like it was always meant to happen, and that's how you'll know, not through grand gestures or dramatic confessions, but through the quiet consistency, the small moments, the way they make you feel safe just by being there. And when that happens, I hope you don't ignore it. I hope you don't push it away out of fear. I hope you don't convince yourself that it's too good to be true, because sometimes, the most genuine things feel unfamiliar simply because you're not used to being treated right, but that doesn't mean they aren't real. It just means you're finally experiencing something different, something better, and you deserve that. You deserve a connection that doesn't confuse you, a presence that doesn't disappear when things get difficult, a person who doesn't make you feel like you're too much or not enough at the same time. And that person is closer than you think, maybe just a conversation away, maybe already somewhere in your life waiting for the right moment to truly connect with you. So don't ignore this feeling, don't brush it off like it's nothing, because sometimes, the smallest signs carry the biggest meanings, and sometimes, the person who is about to walk into your life will change everything in the most unexpected, beautiful, and quiet way possible. And the strange thing is, when they finally arrive, it won't feel like something brand new crashing into your life. It will feel familiar, almost like your soul recognizes them before your mind does, like you've known their presence long before you actually met them. And that's what will confuse you at first, because you're used to things being intense, complicated, uncertain. But this will feel simple, calm, steady, and you might even question it. You might wonder if something is missing because there's no chaos, no overthinking, no emotional exhaustion, but slowly you'll begin to understand. That peace was never something to doubt, it was something you just weren't used to receiving, and this person will teach you that love doesn't always come with noise. Sometimes it comes in quiet understanding, in the way they listen to you without interrupting, in the way they remember the smallest details about you that even you forget, in the way they check on you without needing a reason. And these little things, they'll start to matter more than any grand gesture ever could, because for the first time, you'll feel like someone is choosing you not out of convenience, not out of loneliness, but out of genuine connection. And that realization will hit differently. It will make you pause and think about all the times you settled for less, all the times you accepted half-hearted effort thinking that was all you deserved, and you'll start to unlearn those patterns, slowly, gently, without even forcing yourself to, because when something real enters your life, it naturally makes you let go of what was never right for you. And this person, they won't rush you, they won't pressure you to open up faster than you're ready to. They'll give you space but never distance. They'll respect your boundaries but never make you feel like you're too difficult to love. And that balance, it's rare, it's something you don't find easily, and maybe that's why it will feel so different, so unexpected, because deep down, you had almost convinced yourself that connections like this don't exist anymore, that people don't stay, that everything eventually fades. But they'll prove you wrong, not through promises or big words, but through consistency, through showing up again and again in ways that feel real, in ways that feel stable. And over time, you'll notice how your guard starts to drop around them, how your fears don't feel as loud, how your past doesn't control your present as much as it used to. And it won't be because they magically fixed everything, it will be because they created a space where you felt safe enough to be yourself, safe enough to heal at your own pace. And that kind of safety, it changes a person, it changes the way you see love, the way you see yourself, the way you believe in what's possible for you. And you'll start to realize that you were never too much for the right person. You were just giving your energy to people who couldn't understand your depth, and now, for the first time, someone does. Someone sees you without trying to change you, without trying to mold you into something easier to handle, and that acceptance, it will feel like a weight lifting off your chest, like you can finally breathe without holding anything back. And yes, there will still be moments of doubt. Moments where your past tries to whisper fears into your mind, telling you not to trust this. Telling you to be careful, telling you that it might not last, but this time, those fears won't feel as powerful, because their actions will keep reassuring you in ways words never could, and slowly, you'll learn to believe in something you once questioned, that maybe, just maybe, you are allowed to have something real, something lasting, something that doesn't fall apart the moment things get difficult. And as days turn into weeks and weeks turn into something more, you'll find yourself building something with them, not in a rushed or forced way, but in a natural, effortless rhythm, like two people walking side by side without needing to pull or push each other, just moving forward together. And that's when you'll understand that the right connection doesn't drain you, it doesn't confuse you, it doesn't leave you feeling empty, it fills you in the quietest, most genuine way. And even on the days when life feels heavy, when things around you don't make sense, their presence will feel like a constant, like something you can hold on to without fear of it slipping away. And maybe that's what makes it so special. Not the intensity, not the drama, but the stability, the comfort, the quiet certainty that they're not going anywhere. And when you finally realize that, when it finally sinks in that this is real, that this isn't something temporary or fragile, you'll look back at your journey and understand why everything happened the way it did, why certain people left, why certain connections broke, why you had to experience all those lessons that once felt like heartbreak, because they were shaping you, preparing you, guiding you toward something that aligns with who you truly are. And maybe you didn't see it then, maybe it felt unfair, maybe it felt like you were always the one giving more, caring more, trying more, but now it will make sense. Because the person who is walking into your life isn't here to take from you, they're here to meet you halfway. To give back the same energy, the same care, the same effort, and that balance. It will change everything. It will change how you love, how you trust, how you believe, and most importantly, it will change how you see yourself, because through them, you'll finally understand that you were always worthy of this kind of connection. You were never asking for too much, you were just asking the wrong people, and now that the right one is here, everything that once felt complicated will start to feel simple. Everything that once felt uncertain will start to feel clear, and everything that once felt heavy will start to feel light, and in that lightness, in that quiet happiness, you'll find a version of yourself you thought you had lost, a version that believes again, that hopes again, that isn't afraid to open up and feel deeply. And that's the real change. Not just that someone new entered your life, but that they helped you reconnect with parts of yourself you had buried under doubt and disappointment. And that's why this matters, that's why you shouldn't ignore it, because this isn't just about meeting someone special, it's about becoming someone who is no longer afraid of something real, someone who no longer settles for less, someone who finally understands what it feels like to be chosen, not temporarily, not conditionally, but fully, genuinely, and without hesitation. And when that happens, when you finally experience that kind of connection, you'll realize that it was worth the wait, it was worth the confusion, it was worth every moment that made you question if love like this even existed, because now you know, it does, and it found its way to you exactly when you were ready to receive it. And maybe the most beautiful part of all this is not just that they came into your life, but the way they stay, the way they choose you again and again, not because they have to, not because it's easy, but because somewhere in their heart, it feels right to be with you. And that kind of choice, it hits differently when you've spent so much time feeling like an option in someone else's story, when you've questioned whether people really mean the things they say, when you've wondered if anyone could truly stay without getting tired of you. And this time, things won't feel like a question mark, they won't leave you guessing or doubting where you stand, because their presence will answer everything without needing constant reassurance, and slowly, you'll start to relax into it, you'll stop overanalyzing every little detail, you'll stop preparing yourself for an ending that never comes, and that peace, it will feel unfamiliar at first, almost like you're waiting for something to go wrong. But as time passes, you'll realize that not everything is meant to fall apart, not everything is meant to hurt, some things are meant to stay, meant to grow, meant to become something solid and real, and this connection, it won't just exist on the surface, it will go deeper, into the quiet conversations, into the shared silences, into the moments where no words are needed but everything is understood, and you'll find yourself opening up in ways you didn't think you could anymore, telling them things you've kept hidden, not because they forced you to, but because with them, it feels safe to be honest, it feels safe to be vulnerable without the fear of being judged or misunderstood, and that safety, it becomes the foundation of everything, because when you feel safe with someone, you don't hold back, you don't pretend, you don't hide parts of yourself just to keep them around, you just exist as you are, and for the first time, that feels like enough, and there will be moments, quiet little moments, where you'll look at them and realize how effortlessly they've become a part of your life, how naturally they've fit into spaces you once kept guarded, and it won't feel forced, it won't feel rushed, it will just feel right, like something that was always meant to happen but just needed the right time to unfold, and you'll begin to understand that timing matters more than we realize, that sometimes people don't come into our lives because we're not ready to receive them yet, because we're still holding on to things that would have prevented us from fully appreciating what they bring, and now you are different, now you see things more clearly, now you understand the value of genuine connection, and because of that, you won't take this for granted, you won't overlook the effort, the care, the consistency they show you, you'll recognize it for what it is, something rare, something worth protecting, and that doesn't mean everything will always be perfect. There will still be disagreements, misunderstandings, moments where things don't feel easy, but the difference is, you won't walk away at the first sign of difficulty, and neither will they, because when something matters, you don't give up on it so quickly, you work through it, you communicate, you grow together instead of apart, and that's what makes a connection last, not the absence of problems, but the willingness to face them together, and in those moments, you'll see another side of them, a side that shows you that they're not just there for the good days, they're there for all of it, the messy parts, the uncertain parts, the days when you don't feel like your best self, and instead of pulling away, they'll stay, they'll remind you in small, quiet ways that you're not alone, that you don't have to handle everything by yourself anymore, and that realization, it changes something deep within you, because for so long, you might have felt like you had to carry everything on your own, like you couldn't rely on anyone without being disappointed, but now, you're learning what it feels like to have someone who doesn't disappear when things get heavy, someone who stands beside you instead of stepping back, and that kind of support, it doesn't just make life easier, it makes it more meaningful, more connected, more real, and as this bond grows stronger, you'll start to notice how it reflects in other parts of your life too, how you become more confident, more secure, more at peace with who you are, because when you're loved in the right way, it doesn't just affect your relationship, it affects the way you see yourself, the way you move through the world, the way you handle challenges, and suddenly, things that once felt overwhelming don't seem as heavy anymore, because you know you're not facing them alone, and there will be days when you pause and think about how different everything feels now. How the version of you who once doubted if this kind of connection was even possible would hardly believe where you are today, and in those moments, you'll feel grateful, not just for them, but for yourself too, for not giving up completely, for still holding on to a small piece of hope even when things didn't make sense, because that hope, it led you here, it kept your heart open just enough for something real to find its way in. And that's why this matters so much, because it's not just about someone special walking into your life. It's about everything that comes with it, the growth, the healing, the understanding, the quiet happiness that builds over time, and maybe one day, without even realizing when it happened, you'll look at them and see not just a person who entered your life, but someone who became a part of your story in a way that feels permanent, in a way that feels like they were always meant to be there, and that's when it will truly sink in, that this is what you were waiting for, not perfection, not a fairy tale, but something real, something steady, something that feels like home in a way nothing else ever did, and in that realization, you'll finally understand why you were told not to ignore this, because some moments, some people, some connections, they change everything, and once they arrive, life is never quite the same again. And as everything begins to settle into something deeper, something more real than you ever expected, you'll notice a quiet shift inside yourself that you can't fully explain, like your heart has finally stopped running and learned how to stay, because for the longest time, maybe you were used to things being temporary, used to people coming close and then slowly drifting away, used to building connections that never quite reached the depth you were searching for, and somewhere along the way, you might have convinced yourself that this is just how things are, that maybe lasting connections are rare, or maybe not meant for you, but now that belief starts to break. Not all at once, but gently, piece by piece, as this person continues to show up in ways that feel consistent, in ways that don't confuse you or leave you questioning their intentions, and consistency, it's such a simple thing, yet it holds so much power, because when someone is consistent, you don't have to guess, you don't have to overthink. You don't have to prepare yourself for sudden distance or unexplained silence, you just know they're there, and that knowing creates a kind of peace that's hard to put into words, and with that peace, you'll begin to rediscover parts of yourself that you had slowly hidden away, parts that believed in love without fear, parts that weren't guarded or hesitant, parts that didn't feel the need to hold back just to avoid getting hurt. And it won't feel like you're forcing yourself to change, it will feel natural, like something that was always within you but just needed the right environment to come back to life, and this person, they become that environment, not by doing anything extraordinary, but by simply being real, by being present, by being someone who doesn't disappear when things get complicated, and as days turn into something more meaningful. You'll start to notice how your connection with them goes beyond just words or moments, it becomes something you carry with you even when they're not around, something that makes your days feel a little lighter, your thoughts a little calmer, your heart a little more at ease, and that's when you realize that this isn't just about having someone in your life, it's about how they make your life feel, how they influence your inner world in ways that are quiet yet powerful. And there will be moments when you sit with yourself and think about how far you've come, How different everything feels compared to before, how the things that once hurt you don't have the same hold over you anymore, and it won't be because you've forgotten your past, it will be because you've grown beyond it, because you've experienced something that showed you a different side of what connection can be, and that changes everything, because once you know what it feels like to be treated with care, with respect, with genuine intention, you can't go back to accepting anything less, and that realization, it strengthens you, it makes you more aware of your own worth, not in a loud or arrogant way, but in a quiet, grounded way that simply knows what you deserve, and with that awareness, you'll start to move differently, you'll stop chasing things that don't align with you, you'll stop holding on to people who don't see you clearly, because now you've felt what it's like to be understood, and you won't settle for confusion anymore. And through all of this, this person remains a constant, not as someone who completes you, but as someone who complements you, someone who adds to your life without taking away from who you are, and that distinction is important, because real connection doesn't make you lose yourself, it helps you become more of who you truly are, and maybe that's the biggest difference you'll notice, that you don't feel like you have to change to keep them. You don't feel like you have to hide parts of yourself to be accepted, you just are, and that is enough for them. And as time continues to move forward, you'll find yourself building memories together, not just the big, exciting ones, but the small, ordinary ones that somehow end up meaning the most, the random conversations, the shared laughter over things that don't even make sense to anyone else. The quiet moments where nothing special is happening but it still feels special because you're with them, and those are the moments that stay, the ones that create a sense of closeness that goes beyond surface-level connection, and one day, without even realizing when it happened, you'll look at them and understand that they're no longer just someone who walked into your life, they've become a part of it in a way that feels permanent, in a way that feels steady and real, and that realization might scare you a little at first, not because it's wrong, but because it's unfamiliar, because you're not used to something this stable, this certain, but instead of running from it, you'll find yourself leaning into it, trusting it, allowing yourself to fully experience it without holding back, and that trust, it becomes the foundation of everything. Because without trust, nothing can truly grow, and now, for the first time, you feel like you can trust not just them, but the connection itself, and that changes the way you love, it changes the way you show up, it changes the way you allow yourself to be seen, and through all of this, you'll come to understand something important. That the right person doesn't just enter your life and change it instantly, they change it gradually, in ways that feel natural, in ways that don't overwhelm you but instead support you, in ways that make you feel like you're growing into something better rather than being forced into something different, and that kind of change, it lasts, it stays with you, it becomes a part of who you are, and even on the days when things feel uncertain or life throws challenges your way, you'll have this quiet confidence within you. This steady feeling that you're not alone, that you have something real to hold on to, and that makes all the difference, and maybe, just maybe, that's what this whole journey was leading you towards, not just finding someone, but finding something that feels genuine, something that feels right in a way you can't fully explain but don't need to question either, and as you continue forward, you'll carry that feeling with you. That understanding that some things are worth waiting for, that some connections are meant to find you when the time is right, and that when they do, they don't just pass through your life, they stay, they grow, they become something that shapes your story in the most beautiful, unexpected, and quietly powerful way. And maybe now, as you sit with all of this, as you look back at everything you've felt, everything you've gone through, everything that once made you question whether something real would ever find you. You'll begin to understand that none of it was random, none of it was wasted, even the moments that hurt the most, even the connections that didn't last, even the times you felt like giving up on the idea of something genuine. They were all shaping you in ways you couldn't see at the time, preparing your heart, teaching you what matters and what doesn't, showing you the difference between attention and intention, between temporary and lasting. And now you stand in a place where you can finally recognize what's real when it comes to you, where you don't have to second guess your feelings or ignore your intuition, because you've learned, you've grown. You've become someone who understands the value of something steady, something honest, something that doesn't come with constant confusion, and as this person continues to be a part of your life, you'll notice how natural everything feels, how there's no need to rush anything or force anything into place, because what's meant for you doesn't need to be chased endlessly, it doesn't need to be held together with fear or overthinking. It simply flows, it builds, it strengthens over time in a way that feels effortless yet deeply meaningful, and in that flow, you'll find a kind of happiness that isn't loud or overwhelming, but calm, grounding, something that stays even in silence, something that doesn't disappear when the moment passes, and that kind of happiness, it's rare, it's something people spend so much time searching for without realizing that it doesn't always come in big, dramatic ways, sometimes it comes quietly, through a person who understands you without needing you to explain everything, through a connection that feels safe instead of uncertain, through a presence that doesn't make you feel like you have to earn your place in their life, and as you continue to experience this, you'll start to let go of the fears that once held you back, you'll stop expecting things to fall apart, you'll stop waiting for something to go wrong, because slowly, you'll realize that not everything is meant to end, not everything is meant to hurt. Some things are meant to stay, meant to grow, meant to become something that lasts, and in that realization, you'll find a new kind of strength within yourself, a quiet confidence that comes from knowing that you are no longer settling for less, that you are no longer accepting half-hearted connections, that you are choosing something real just as much as they are choosing you, and that mutual choice, it's what makes everything stronger. It's what turns something simple into something meaningful, something lasting, and there will be a moment, maybe not a big or dramatic one, but a quiet, ordinary moment, where it all truly sinks in, where you look at them and feel it deeply, that this is different, that this is what you've been waiting for without even realizing it, and in that moment, you won't feel the need to question it. You won't feel the urge to pull back or protect yourself from something that hasn't given you a reason to doubt. Instead, you'll allow yourself to be present, to feel it fully, to appreciate it for what it is without overthinking what it could become, because now you understand that the beauty of something real isn't in trying to control it, it's in experiencing it as it unfolds, naturally, honestly, without fear. And as time goes on, this connection will become a part of your everyday life in a way that feels steady and certain, not something you constantly have to think about or analyze, but something you simply know is there, something you can rely on, something that adds to your life in ways that feel genuine and lasting, and you'll start to see how much you've changed because of it, how you've become more open, more at peace, more secure in yourself and in what you share with them, and that change, it's not something you forced, it's something that happened because you finally allowed something real to enter your life without pushing it away, without doubting it into something it's not, and maybe that's the biggest lesson in all of this, that sometimes, the right thing comes into your life when you least expect it, not to disrupt you, not to confuse you, but to show you what you deserve, to remind you that not every story ends the same way, that not every person is meant to hurt you or leave you questioning your worth. Some people come into your life to stay, to build something with you, to create a connection that feels like home rather than something you have to fight to keep. And as you hold on to that understanding, you'll realize that you're no longer the same person you were before all of this began. You're someone who has seen both sides, someone who knows the difference between what drains you and what fulfills you, someone who no longer chases what isn't meant for them, and that realization, it brings a kind of peace that goes beyond just this connection. It reflects in every part of your life, in the way you carry yourself, in the way you approach things, in the way you trust the process of where you're going, and as everything continues to unfold, you won't feel the need to rush ahead or figure everything out all at once, because now you understand that some things are meant to be experienced step by step, moment by moment, without pressure, without fear, and that's exactly what this is. Something that grows with time, something that becomes stronger not because it's perfect, but because it's real, because it's built on understanding, on trust, on mutual effort and care. And as you reach this point, as you look at everything that has come together in a way you once doubted was possible, you'll finally understand why you were told not to ignore this, because this wasn't just about someone special walking into your life, it was about everything that followed, the growth, the healing, the clarity, the quiet happiness that stays even when nothing extraordinary is happening. And in the end, you'll see it clearly, that this wasn't something you needed to chase or force or question endlessly. It was something that found you when you were ready, something that stayed because it was meant to, something that turned out to be real in a way that changed you from within. And that's what makes it so special, not just that it happened, but that it stayed, that it became a part of your life in a way that feels right, in a way that feels like it was always meant to be there. And now, as this chapter settles into something steady and meaningful, you won't feel the need to search for anything more, because you'll already have what you were looking for, something real, something genuine, something that doesn't fade with time but grows with it. And in that realization, you'll find a quiet kind of happiness that doesn't need to be loud to be felt, because deep down, you'll know, this is it, this is what you were waiting for all along.